Hey everyone, what is up? Welcome to HLTV Confirmed. Sorry for the slight hiccup for those of you that were waiting for us at the 8 CET. We're live now as usual. There is a slight hiccup whenever big events are rolling around. This is the major after all, which also means that we'll be doing a proper major preview for HLTV Confirmed this time around. Thanks for everyone already in the chat. Some people are confused. Some people are typing what doing. We'll let you know. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Remember, before I introduce the panel, everyone please go to the chat and type in questions, especially if you have questions regarding the major, anything you'd like the panel's views on or questions you'd like to ask. We'll be sure to pick up on them once in a while during each subject, but also as we pick up some rounds where we do separate questions that we will answer. So as usual, like last time for HLTV Confirmed, we'll have my panel with me. I'm not alone in this, thankfully. But while I'm home at the HLTV HQ, I have my buddies with me from London. Professor and Striker, our coverage team that's going to be covering the next 3 weeks of the major. You guys have a lovely house close to the Twickenham Stadium where some of the action will take place. And then we have, of course, our friend Sponge, also an analyst for not for HLTV Confirmed. Well, you will be for us, but in tomorrow's chat, you're going to be on some of the panel for the new Challenger stage. This time, Chad, you won't have a picture. Because last time you were wearing face paint. So for this one we decided not to put you on.
That's
because
fair, I think.
we didn't know what you were going to bring this time.
Well, I'm actually naked right now. I just got off the airplane from Stockholm, came straight in, threw off all my clothes, and now I'm ready to do a podcast. So feeling good.
Feeling good, even though you're not going to be seen here. That's fine. You're going to be on screen for the next at least a couple of weeks. So I guess you'll be okay with that.
Yeah, I'm fed up with being on cameras.
That's always good to hear from an analyst going into quite a lot of coverage. Prof and Striker, you guys are in the press room, so thanks to FACEIT for letting us stay there after Media Day, which was today is over. I know you guys talked to some of the players and teams that came in. What's the general feeling, Striker? I know you've been there all day talking to people.
Well, yeah, I've done. I actually don't remember how many. I think it was 6 interviews. I think we've got a couple more, like 3 more left to release. Some of them you actually can already see on the site, so you can check that out when we're done. But I mean, general feeling. I've just been talking to teams about kind of their expectations, preparation, and stuff like that, and especially the underdogs, just because it's quite likely that we won't see them, or at least we won't get to talk to them later.
So hopefully not.
Did you say that to everyone
not nice
you interviewed today? So the reason we're talking to you today is because we don't expect you to go.
You're probably gonna go out soon. No. I mean, like it's. I've talked to what was it, Complexity, Rogue. I talked to Blade, which is going to be up on the site at like a 14-minute interview. That was actually quite insightful as usual. It's just Blade stuff. I don't think it's possible to do an interview with Blade under 10 minutes. So you can look forward to that.
All right, Prof, I know you just arrived as well. Obviously, you're also going to be bringing us coverage. Let's start with you with the first topic, because actually before we get into the whole major thing, we have another tournament that was like recently done in Stockholm. Most of the teams, including many of those that are going to play at the major were actually here first. So before we get into the major, let's talk about Stockholm, because obviously there's a lot to talk about that. I think everyone kind of expected Astralis to be in the final, but that they would lose to North, I don't think many people had seen that. I gotta say, my Twitter feed today, and this might be because I'm Danish, and of course I follow all these people from the organizations here, but my Twitter feed has been spammed ever since Sunday night with pictures of trophies, AC being really happy, Nico interviews on stage. It's been fun, and it's been quite a, I wouldn't say maybe not upset, but at least surprising. Chad, What do you make of it?
Obviously, to see North take a trophy with their roster change recently and MSL AWPing and all these different bits and pieces that we could look at, it's not an expected result by any means. I think that the biggest takeaways for me is not North doing well, but more FaZe stumbling against Mouse Sports, Astralis losing 2 best-of-3s in the same tournament. Those ones, Na'Vi with all those issues. Obviously, fantastic props to North for getting it done, but those are the glaring issues for me going into the major.
What about you, Prof? Obviously, you were also following Stockholm, even though it was Striker who was at the Ericsson Globe. What do you make of North's run?
Yeah, firstly, I have to say how you nicely introduced me that you're going to ask me about Stockholm and then just threw the sponge in the last minute. I was like,
I was hoping you
okay.
would forget that, okay?
Oh, yeah, okay. Thank you very much for that. And yeah, your question, I forgot. What did you ask exactly? Just generally about the event or something
Yeah, I
specific?
mean, we can also expand from the North victory, which obviously is a storyline in and of itself. But what else did you see there that was interesting to you?
Yeah, I mean, Astralis kind of struggling, especially in the group stage. They were very unconvincing, and they did a bunch of kind of not typical mistakes for them, like losing to anti-ecos, over aggressing, maybe peaking when they shouldn't. Stuff like that was interesting, but I think they picked it up later in the tournament. But still, it was I don't know what to say. Like the MSL MVP for opping, beating all of the best oppers at the tournament. Oscar, Simple, Device 2 times. That's literally insane. I don't know how to comprehend that. So it's a pretty fun thing to happen, and also AZ playing very well. And yeah, good fun tournament overall. But with the kind of the asterisk of it of being the first tournament coming back from the major, and after I mean coming back from the player break, and all of these things, all of the teams focusing on the major, so that maybe gave a bit of an advantage to North, and maybe that little gap that they needed to win their first big event actually under this brand.
I know also, Striker, that you actually talked to, I mean, all the teams that you talked to when they started to come back from the break and practice.
Yeah.
So did you find any big discrepancies between the teams?
I mean, just in general, those teams that were at the league premiere, that they just took a longer break, or at least like they started a little bit later, just because they went into the break a little bit later than everybody else, just because that was at the end of the month in July. So those teams generally started, I think, was around the 20th of August or something like that. Some started later, some started earlier. I think Australis were like 18th of August or something like that. But like among those teams, not such a big discrepancy. But when you look at North, like obviously they had a much longer break. They weren't at the league premiere, so they actually started at some like halfway through, like a week earlier than some of these other teams like FaZe and Astralis. So I mean, like you can kind of see the fruits of that, right? But I mean, even then, you would never expect North to win the tournament with MSL being the MVP. I feel like that's just like a double whammy for me.
I mean, he himself said it, right, in our MVP
Yep,
interview.
kinda, yeah.
So what was the like you also said, you wish that you could have done a video interview with him.
Yeah, a
Why
little
was
bit,
that?
just because it was just so obvious. But I feel like the actual quote that ended up going with ended up sounding a little bit arrogant in text, just because you couldn't tell the tone that it was kind of conveyed. It was more like I myself can't, like he was saying, like I myself can't believe that I'm standing here with the MVP medal. So it was generally more that way, yeah. So that's why I was a little bit disappointed that we didn't do video, just because like a lot of what it meant to him didn't really show in the text interview.
I mean, that doesn't really surprise me, considering, I mean, the last, I guess, year they had, or
No, of course.
at least since New Year's, and even before that. I remember I did an article with them about how they were in the slump with their sports director. But Chad, do you think, like, is this North being back stronger? I don't want to say, but it just rolls off the tongue every time. He kind of took that meme, didn't he? Brought it back, and now everyone's kind of saying. I even wrote it once in a match report I was doing when they actually turned around a comeback from Navi. It just in the fingers. Chad, what do you think? Are they back?
Oh, mate. Here's the thing, right? AZ's playing well, Kirby's playing consistently, Valdez consistent. It's hard to see MSL doing that again with the AWP. If he does, it's fantastic. You know, that's really good signs. But it's a bit too early to say one way or another if these guys are back to the full, well, not even full form. They've never really reached their potential at any point throughout any of these rosters, right? They won that Epicenter event in like 2016, and then from there it's just been obviously a handful of roster changes or more, and nothing of consistency has ever come of it. They've obviously built up to this point. They started at the very bottom. That was all about structure and stuff, but they still. I think we've learned a few things. MSL can't run a team with a star AWPer, right? That's one thing that we've learned. That's
Yep.
not like that's one thing that is definitive at this point. In terms of them, being a top 5 team in the world, we need to see a lot more if they can be consistent in that realm. I think they can definitely be a top 10 team in the world. That's not a problem at all. Being able to redo it straight at the major, they had to show a lot to get to this point. They had to rely on a lot of individuals playing out of their skin, winning a lot of clutches. They had a lot of, I guess, moves within the game which will be studied instantly. The saving grace is the fact that we have majority best of ones in the Swiss system, but this goes for every team. And now that Astralis have shown that they can continue to lose tournaments, and FaZe is the same thing, losing in games that they should be winning. There's no one in the scene right now who's consistent enough to take these titles, and that's even with Astralis there. So and I hate this because my job is to analyze Counter-Strike, but I'm at the point where I can only analyze in the realms of an event. I can literally only go, how well are they playing in this tournament, which could have just been a week from a different tournament, and go, well, I have to analyze them on the merit of now. Because if you keep doing it with too much history involved and shit, it's always going to be wrong. It's always going to be outdated.
I think actually one of the biggest reasons why, or it could what could be a reason is actually bringing on Nico, not necessarily because he's like an insane player, or that the role he has kind of fits them better or worse than anything else. He just seems like such a funny guy. If you go check out that they do they do a documentary that follows them. They put out every other week or so, and the newest one where he's brought on the team is only him laughing. It's like this big guy just laughing all through the episode, and maybe that's what it took, right, for that team to have someone just take the piss out on everyone and not take everything so seriously after like a really tough break.
I mean, it could be, honestly, considering just seeing him on the server, looking at the stats and stuff like that, you don't really see Nico doing that much for the team. Like in this victory, he wasn't maybe a pivotal part. I didn't see it. I didn't go back and watch all of the demos, so maybe I missed something. But the key things were what Sponge said earlier. It was MSL's opping. He got a lot of entries, and you have AZ and Kirby and Valde all fragging very well. And Nico is just a player doing his job and nothing special. So I don't see him coming to the team as being the big addition that changed the team. It's other things coming into place. Maybe it's something in the chemistry of the team that changed, as you kind of mentioned here. Could be. Who knows?
So moving on from there, let's look at another important subject for me at least. I was woken up last weekend at 6 a.m. by someone pinging me on the server, in the HLTV server. Wake up, everyone! byali is leaving VP. For some reason, Virtus Pro decided to get the news out at 6 a.m. in the morning. I presume because they were at SOTAC in Hong Kong. Means that the team was 6 or 7 hours ahead of us, and that's probably why they did it. Got the news out as quick as possible that byali is leaving VP after the major, and thus ends the reign of the longest standing CS:GO roster, I believe, right? So
the core anyway, right?
The core, that's exactly. So Striker, I know you talked to Neo today, and it's also up on the site if everyone wants to take a look at that. And he had some insight as to how that all happened, right? There was sort of something happened when Snacks decided to leave the team.
Yeah, exactly. It felt like from what Neo was saying, it felt like it was basically even from before Snacks even decided to leave, that the team was already kind of in disarray. But apparently, like byali was already kind of like rooting for changes within the team even before Snacks left. So I think that's where it kind of started for Virtus Pro, and where this whole fall has kind of continued, just because clearly they just haven't been able to have the results up to par with some of the previous years, and it's pretty understandable that the players get a little bit frustrated with that and just start asking for lineup changes, just because the veterans or I think specifically Neo in this case haven't been able to keep up. So from the perspective of the younger guys, BL and Stacks, I kind of understand their point of view, just because they don't want to be stuck in a team that's not going to be able to do anything for another year, because they haven't done that for about a year. They haven't had any good results for about a year. So I feel like that's kind of where it started for VP, that just kind of byali wanting like an out, or like such a like a heavier change, and then like Stacks obviously got an offer from VP, and it all kind of fell apart from there.
And this also means, I mean, obviously the gonna split. He's gonna take off after the major. But what does that mean for them going into the major now, knowing that one of them is gonna leave? I mean, it's dead, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was pretty obvious, even from like, I was trying to ask him questions like about how much they actually practiced, because he was saying like at Zotac they had something like 2 days before Zotac, like after the player break, and he was saying that that it was generally about just like the lack of form, that they just haven't put in any hours into the game, or not enough. But even so, like, yeah, I even a little bit pushed him that and asked him about, but this still has to affect you somehow, knowing that you will not play with byali after the majors. So, and he even conceded like, yeah, that is the case. Like, definitely, this is basically another of those dead teams going into the major. We had that with MIBR a couple of times, even though they actually did well when they had Phelps when he was already out of the team, and even before that, when that happened before with Phoenix, if I'm not mistaken. So it's just, that's just one of those cases. It just feels like VP are already kind of out of it.
Oh, this means, yeah. Sorry, chat.
I was just going to say, if you just head over to HLTV.org right now and check the matches sidebar, you will see that VP are playing with Morales because Snatchy's not in the server, and they've lost a fucking map to a team called B Pro. So that doesn't sum up the likelihood of these guys winning a game at the major. I don't know what does.
Yeah, I think Snatchy can't because it's ESCA and they have roster locks there, different roster locks. But yeah, what B Pro is pretty good for a tier 3-4 team.
Yeah, cool, man.
To be fair, I mean, I don't understand what it is about VP, but I mean, they're even worse online, and they've been like dog shit. Like, I'm gonna say that online for the longest of times. Like, they've been losing to these teams for forever. It's not just now that they're also bad like everywhere else, that they've only started losing to these tier 3-4 teams. So I don't see that as too much of like an issue, just because they're playing with the standing, and it's like an online match. They've always been pretty bad online, but I think it's just going to be bad online as well. I don't think that they're going to be very competitive, especially after what we saw in Zotac.
Oh, but this means they can play without pressure, right? So this means they're probably gonna win.
No, I think they're just going to be more pissed about that, honestly.
Like Lotterific says
I
in the
think
chat, so
Sponge
VP's
has
gonna win the
something to say
major, right?
about this idea.
This team's been dead for the better part of a year. What after Las Vegas last year, this team should have no longer existed. They should have all gone their separate ways. They should have grabbed each of them should have grabbed some younger players in Poland. They could have made a couple of good teams, and we wouldn't be in this position. However, I say that, and then Sweden literally had the same thing with the dominance of NIP and Fnatic over so long, and now both those teams are completely fucked as well. So maybe it wouldn't have helped at all. Maybe
They have young players, right? They brought in some young players.
But and then both those teams look average as shit as well. So I don't know. I don't know what the
Still
solution
better
is
than
for
VP
those
though.
teams. Oh yeah, still better than VP, but not on the par of being a top 10 team. I don't think.
Yeah.
I mean, you can just see that from just like everybody leaving one by one, right? Like Taz was, I think Taz was kicked. Not that he left on his own, but then like obviously just like kind of fell apart from there. Stacks left for from all sports. Like the second he got a good offer, he just left. And then byali, even though he doesn't have an offer now, he just wants to leave as well. So it's just like you can just tell how much frustration there is, and just how bad they've been. That they just like they're fine with breaking up the longest standing core for the roster at the before Taz left. So it's just downhill from here. I don't think VP will even be able to find any good players, just because Ago, who was it? What was the report that we saw from Ago, that they were trying to get? Who was the player?
Groovy?
Was it Gruby? Oh yeah, okay. And they weren't even able to get him. So it's just like, even though VP have so much more money than Argo, like I can imagine, like I don't know what Argo as an organization looks like, but even though there's obvious improvements in your in the financial situation, and then even then they don't want to leave for what's a worse team than Ago at this point. So that just tells you the whole picture, right?
Actually, if we could just bring up a website here. Peter actually did for us write a little link. He put in into our stats. You can just show that on screen, Lucas. He put together a list of potential Polish players that VP could bring in if they want to spend the money. It has every Polish player proven on land, so to speak, within the last, I guess, 6 months. You can see some of the guys you already mentioned here, right? Snatchy, obviously. Groovy was pointed, then there's Rallen, byali is obviously leaving, Riyadh, Mouse, Goofy. Do any of these names stand out to you as something they could potentially do, VP, if they want to keep on with the Polish roster?
I have no idea, to be honest. I don't even see where they go from here. If they don't get an Ago player, which Striker said earlier, I don't see someone from Kingwin maybe. Not. It just seems like one of those moves that after it happens, like usually you know what's gonna happen, like who can go where, what are the options. Like in the Polish scene, it's kind of there's not a lot of young talent blooming up and a lot of people they can pick up. So I don't even know where byali's gonna go. I don't know who Versus Pro could possibly get that could be a better player than byali and elevate them further from where they are right now. So it's just a total mess, in my opinion.
So they'll just have Pasha stay on as a streamer, probably, right?
Yeah,
He's
something like
fine.
that. Yeah, I think he's doing. Yeah, he's gonna do fine. Like even if he doesn't have a team, like Pasha's gonna do all right. He's a pretty big personality, man.
I feel like every time there's like negative news about, obviously that's what it's been for the last while with VP, he'll always crack a joke, right? You'll do an interview with him, one of you guys, and he'll say something very funny to kind of divert
No,
attention
the
a
thing
little
is,
bit.
he's just kind of open. He's honest. He doesn't even care about what he says. Like you can even tell from like his Twitter, like whenever they lose to a team that they should never lose to. I think even after the MVP loss, he tweeted something about like we're just really shit and whatever, something like that. And he just doesn't care about saying that. And he does that every time. So it's that's just Pasha, yeah.
And one of my favorite interviews was, I don't know who talked to him, of ours with him, was when he said that, what tournament was it? The first time he actually for years looked at demos to prepare.
Yeah. Star Series season 4 or 5, I think. I did that one.
But I mean, it comes down to the type of player, to be honest. Like I wouldn't see this as like a massive issue. It's just like I know a lot of players who just don't want to look at other people's demos, just not to overthink stuff. So it's that I wouldn't see that as a massive problem, honestly. But I mean, there's so much else that it doesn't really matter.
Chad, you've been so quiet on this one. Give us some love.
With the whole VP topic is one of my least favorite topics to talk about because like it's my job on the desk to sit there and analyze them and make the game seem like it's going to be exciting. But I have to go into tomorrow saying these guys are basically a dead team who have players which are legendary within our game,
That
and that's all I
sounds
can
fun.
give you. But that's all I can give people, right? Like I can't go in there and talk about a play style of these guys. I can't talk about anything. The fact of the matter is, the way that this system works is the reason this team is still alive. The reason that VP stayed together for so long is because they just kept making majors. Why the fuck would you not just keep going and cashing checks if you can keep making yourself a top 8 team in the world and you guaranteed that sticker money, right? You keep yourself visible, you keep yourself as a prolific unit regardless. If you place top 8 at a major, you're going to get a couple invites to the next few events. And that's kind of the system that kept happening. And I respect these guys more than anything. These guys have been grafting harder than anybody. They won one of the very early majors, the type of Counter-Strike that they've brought us over the years. The thing is, people just need to know when it's done. And this one's done. It's just fucking cooked. Just take her out of the oven. She's burnt. Throw her in the bin. Get on the phone. Order some Nando's because this one, she no good. Like, and it's been like this for a while now.
And that kind of leads into the whole topic about when should players retire, right? What's their cue for it? When you see someone moving on to be analysts like yourself, then you have other people going the coach role, or bringing up players like GG.BET does in Big. Do you see any of this happening to any of these players?
The thing is, if you miss your boat, you miss your window. then you're fucked no matter what happens, right? So I'll use like Pronax as an example. When Fnatic was starting to flounder, and then we had the godsend changes and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, he's still a young guy and he wants to keep playing, same as Existence, actually. But these guys are some of the greatest minds in Counter-Strike, right? They can't frag as well as other players, but they can think about the game, they can produce strategies, they can coach at a level like no one else, right? But as soon as you miss that window, as soon as you throw yourself into a lesser team and you fail, and then that whole aura that you once had is now completely taken away from you, the whole concept of you being the best in-game leader from your region is gone. At no point is anybody going to put you back on that pedestal. You've lost that. And look, when you look at the VP roster, if we're going to stay with them, or if we're going to talk about when players retire or whatever, there's some of them who have really tried like so hard. Like GG.BET has turned it around. He had that like really big lull. Existence is in a position to do the same. If he can play even, I guess, half of as well as what he was doing when he was carrying LDLC for a while there, and that's going to be fantastic for G2. But it depends on what these people want. If the only reason they like Counter-Strike is because they like the competitive edge, then they should stay playing for as long as they possibly can at any level. But if they want to continue to have a successful career and offer the best of their ability, then they just need to see when the writing's on the wall. And for me, it was when you keep sucking. So that was an easy decision for me.
So to close this off, Lockerific again in the chat saying, I just watched VP lose a 4-2 because no one was fucking looking at CT. This really hurts to watch, man. It sounds like you, chat, watching a game when you're not on the desk, right? When you're watching VP and you don't have to talk about them on the desk. Is this you, chat? Are you actually in the chat?
No, I try to avoid
Chat.
Those guys really never say anything smart, so I just avoid them at all costs.
Oh, okay. That's fair, I guess. Chat will pick
What
up.
about the HLTV comments?
They're even better. They're even better than Twitch chat.
Better in a sense. Oh, never mind.
Some of them's not coming through right now.
So to close this one out, or at least take it maybe the final step, do you think might VP actually pull themselves out of Counter-Strike altogether, or are they too much of a legendary organization within it to leave?
Enough about VP. Let's move on.
I can really feel the frustration from each of you. Okay, they'll probably surprise everyone tomorrow, don't you think?
Of course. Just a bad, and we'll get bashed by Polish fans.
It's just the classic HLTV jinx. Like, we've done that so many times.
Thanks, Striker, for stopping the Astralis era by writing about it.
Right. Okay. Moving on to someone who can actually play. Let's talk a little about Electronic, who's obviously been a big part of Navik's success. Obviously, we'll get to watch him in the major and just shortly. But to preface this discussion, let's take a look at a movie that our movie maker Filk made. It's called Rise of Electronic, and we get to see some of his best frags from this year and last year, and I think even some from 2016. Let's take a look at how much of a beast he is.
Betting on sports with 22bet has never been so easy. Open your account, make your first deposit, and start betting on the biggest gaming events all over the world. Register now at 22bet.
It is Electronic yet again, this time with an M4.
Twist, he's going to line up for JDM.
Oh my god,
They actually give him the round there. They could have waited.
finds another one. Just Electronic left and it's straight out free. Electronic, what are you doing? There's a quad kill for Electronic, who even finishes off the job. What a nuts play from Electronic.
On post one, it's Marco. What's happening? He gets himself a double Electronic crazy. He gets a spray now. That's insane. The time picking up. Never he is OT.
They completely surround him, and Tavian gets the shot. Great mid-round calls from Big, from Guppy, and now it's on to Electronic, trying to isolate. Oh, himself! He reads it! He reads it! And an arc! A power surge right through two!
Yeah, that's one of the better ones we did, huh? Or Phil did, one of our movie makers did. That
young
was pretty
talent.
good.
And by young talent, I don't mean Electronic. I mean Phil, our movie maker. Pretty promising guy.
Yeah, I was actually planning on us talking about how good he is after this, but it seems pretty redundant now.
Yeah, I can agree. 1.15 rating at DreamHack Masters, 1.17 at E-League, and that was like some of the lowest rated tournaments he had since joining Navi. So I think that speaks for itself.
He's kind of like, I won't say in the shadows of Simple, but still
Well,
just not as good. But in his own team, he'd be like the star, right?
Yeah, it's kind of funny that you can be that good and not even be the best player in your team, and not even being close. Now, it's not even a discussion that is Simple the better one or Electronic. It's just clearly Simple is the best player, and this guy's also like fairly good, but his stats are like top 8 player in the world right now or something like that. Pretty insane and pretty funny to be in that. Not funny for him maybe, but looking at it from a broader picture, it's a kind of a funny situation for me.
And contrasted to the VP we just talked about, Chad, I guess this is a lot more fun for you, huh?
Yeah, like to watch a player like that play all the time is really good. I just think it's almost a shame in a way that he does have Simple in his team, because he probably could be like we said, he could be the star of a team. So it's good that the CAS are getting all their ducks in a row. Maybe a couple more changes and they could have all of them in one team. But I think the best way to put it is like Simple is the god of Counter-Strike, and then like Electronic can be one of the demigods. There'll be a couple of them under Simple.
That's fair.
It's going to be exciting to see how he fares in the major too. Let's just get to it. This is what we've been waiting for, right? This is the big one, the major preview, as I put it. There's going to be a lot of topics in this one, so and also a lot of questions from you guys in the chat. I collected a few of them. We'll get to them shortly. Please do send us your comments about who you think is going to win, what's going to be interesting to look at, and ask us questions that you'd like to hear our thoughts on. Just starting out, I think we need to talk about the most breaking, I guess, news item that's coming out of London, or it's not coming out of London, because it's actually about a passport that hasn't left it yet. Engine from Space Soldiers apparently hasn't gotten his passport back, so he won't be able to go, and they have to use their coach. I actually had them to lose to Rogue tomorrow, which we'll also talk to
Unexpected
a little bit later.
from a Dane.
But this kind of helped me a little bit, right? It's just such a shame, right, Chad? I saw you tweeting about it too, right?
Of course, it's sad that he's unable to come. Visa issues are never a fantastic thing to have, but let's just fucking look at something here while I'm sure I sound like a robot. I was taking some notes before because I like to do my job properly. Let me just get to them.
He's got
his notebook out. He's got his notebook out, boys.
Where is it?
Last major that had no visa issues was.
No, I'm not worried about that. I don't give that. I can't say that on broadcast. Valve will fucking crucify me. Anyway, what I was gonna say on broadcast was the last time Space Soldiers played an offline event was Belo Horizonte on June 15th. So they have literally had from, let's say they got back to Europe or Turkey. Well, Engine actually lives in Cologne, so they've had since the 18th of June to sort out a visa for London, and it's now the 4th of September. So what's going on?
There is one thing to consider though. If you're applying for a visa, you most likely need a recommendation letter from the tournament organizer, company, or whatever. And from what I saw on Twitter, I think QBF or Winstrike, they are now, they were complaining that they didn't get it in time. Like they didn't get it mega early, that they got it maybe 2 months in advance or something, even though they're obviously going to attend the major. We knew that from like 6 months ago. So potentially that could have also come into play. So it's not maybe just down to Space Soldier, not throwing the blame on FACEIT or anything here, but there is some other things that could maybe hinder the whole visa process, which is a pain in the ass, and I hate it happening.
That's good. That's good that's because I'm sitting here thinking, if you look at it right from just an external perspective, like, oh, they have plenty of time. But with those factors in mind, like that is obviously there could be a plethora of different reasons as to why we haven't seen these guys be able to apply for a visa in time.
Yeah, I mean, just a minor delay or a couple of weeks can make all of it kind of look a lot shorter than it seems when you look at and see Belo Horizonte as their last LAN event. But yeah, you can't know without going into all the details, but it does obviously seem kind of stupid that they didn't manage to get a visa for this event.
But would you think that an organization that had such big problems with it before, or at least once, kind of would it be expected to have those things ironed out?
I mean, obviously the organization and the players aren't in great terms, as we can see with the whole drama they had a couple of months ago, and still not having anything on Twitter. It's all black avatars and stuff like that. So I don't think the organization would do much in I don't think we should expect them to do much. That's just my point of view. I don't know.
What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, there's like we can speculate as to like what the problem actually is, but I mean the fact is that he's not going to come, right? And that they're going to play with a coach who hasn't played CS actively for God knows how many years, or something. So it's just one of those, like I said before, like with one of those dead teams. This is kind of the same thing where you don't have the full lineup and you have a coach who doesn't even play actively. playing for at in the qualifier. So it's just sad that this keeps happening. It feels like it just keeps happening to Turks, especially like if you look at Voxic, right? You were mentioning that. So I mean, Turks just have problems all the time. It feels like, and it's just a little bit sad, both for Hellraisers and obviously for Space Soldiers, who have just probably a higher chance of not getting a visa for somebody.
It's
was
just
actually
so
kind of
shit.
yeah. Sorry, Chad.
That feeling, like, let's be honest right now. The reason that this tournament is so prestigious is because it's the one that's endorsed by the developer of this game, and you can't even get a visa to compete in it. It just is a fucking kick in the teeth every time. It
Yeah.
And
just
the whole
sucks,
whole
man.
purpose of having it this way was to minimize visa issues.
Yeah, well, you're announcing it so early, you would expect that there to be no problems at all, but fuck, that's rough.
Yeah, I mean, even it's the funniest thing that he lives in Cologne. I think he's a German citizen, so he shouldn't even have that many issues going. I'm not sure how it happened, but the worst thing of it all is that he obviously can't make it for the first day, so they're forced to use their coach. And the Valve rule set is that you can only have one coach slash stand-in, so it's the same player, and when you sign them up, you can't change it. So they obviously going to sign up their coach. They think everything's going to be
That's
fine.
bullshit.
And after that, once you change it once, so they changed engine for hardstyle, you can't change it back. So now if engine gets the visa like tomorrow, it doesn't matter. He can't play anymore. And the second part of the rule, I just don't get why it exists. And in cases like that are pretty obvious that there's no like no one is
There's no
trying to
benefit.
abuse. There's no one trying to abuse the rule. There obviously a guy doesn't have a visa, doesn't what he wants to come and play. No one's benefiting from hardstyle that has one map and HLTV playing instead of him. Like there's no point in that. So I think just hindering your own tournament with a rule like that is just it's a example of a rule that exists just to be a rule, not to do anything like constructive.
I mean, we saw
So yeah,
Voxic come back to Stockholm at day 2, after
yep.
he actually got his passport to go to Stockholm, right?
I mean, the major is the only tournament that functions like this. Like for ESL events and other events, Star Series, it happened with Isa. He came in the third day. Like no one thought of it as anything bad. It just makes sense to allow it.
Oh, of course, you would just want the best players or like the teams at their best level, right? You want the teams at their best level to compete. So if something like this happens and they come in and they have the option to bring that player back, in this case, Engine, even though we obviously have no idea whether there's even a possibility of him coming back or getting the visa at some point in the process. So it just sucks that we don't get the full team here.
So Heinz Spectre in the chat says, who can't make it? It's Engine from Space Soldiers who didn't get his passport out of London after applying for a visa for the major. And one thing that surprised me was that he announced it was hours ago, right? It was on media day actually. Weren't they supposed to be there?
I think
they
he was
were here.
waiting, man. Well,
Yeah,
Engine couldn't have been here though.
Yeah, the rest of the team was.
So I guess like this is what I would have been doing if I was him, because he would have been waiting for a reply from the embassy or the consulate, and he probably waited until they closed, and then he was like, well, fuck it, I don't have it now, and I can't play
Yeah.
tomorrow, and the rules are stupid, so here we are.
That's damn sad. Well, anyway, your comments on that, please hit us up with them in the chat. People are actively discussing in there and asking questions. So this one's interesting. So what anime are you guys watching, Nick? No, that's not. Sorry, that's the wrong one. I don't know if that doesn't apply to me anyway. I don't know about you guys, but thoughts on complexity. They seem pretty underrated by most for some reason. I've seen certainly a lot of people saying they're the team to go 0-3 in the new challenges stage. I don't know. I don't really see them as being strong enough to tackle, well, apart from a couple of teams going on tomorrow.
I don't know on the basis of what we can rate them highly.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense to me. They played a minor and maybe they played a couple of smaller tournaments. They didn't play anything big against any big teams. So how can we rate them highly?
But it's pretty much the same as Rogue, right? Like we haven't seen Rogue do that well or actually be at any big tournaments. So and like sure they made it to the minor, they made it to second place in Austin, but like look at the teams there, right? This is a completely different ball game, and so like of course they deserve the the stature of an underdog.
Well, I
Yeah,
don't
I
even
mean,
think.
both teams looks decent to me. Just I don't want to bash them too hard.
No,
Just
of
putting
course
that
not.
out.
But like looking at the facts here, like of course, like these two teams coming in from North America are just two teams that we haven't seen at a compete at a big event or anything of this stature. So like, why would we expect them to do any well? Like because they are not proved.
Well, the thing that I've done with the 16 teams is I put them into like categories, right? Of like teams that should be shoe-ins, teams that should likely be shoe-ins unless
Yep.
they have like a mental meltdown, teams on the cusp, and teams that really shouldn't have a chance, but they still like everyone has a chance, obviously, but we have to base it off of merit, right? So if you look at the 16 teams we have during the new challenger stage, Astralis and Liquid should be 100% locks.
Yep.
If they don't qualify, then they've shat the bed, and the Pope's not whatever the Pope is. Bears don't shit in the wood. Pigs fly. The world's upside down. If those two teams don't qualify, that's just ridiculous. Then I move to my next category, which is like they should qualify, but I can see them having an internal meltdown and falling apart. North, NIP, and Hellraisers. They're in that like list for me, right? Of the next bunch of teams. I'd probably then move to teams that I put on the cusp, because at that point we've only got 3 slots left, right? And then it's all matchup specific. So I'm going in that. Optic, Big, Gambit, Renegades, Space Soldiers are out now. They're at the bottom. And Tyloo and BP. Right? All those teams I think have potential to perform to the top of their, I guess, skill ceiling and qualify, but we can only tell in the tournament. Then Vega, Spirit, Complexity, and Rogue, when now Space Soldiers are in the bottom.
Yeah, sounds pretty good. Like, especially a team like Vega Squadron that dipped to number 211 ahead of the major because they didn't play anything. They have 5 maps in the last 3 months played. Pretty insane. And their player Kibaken renamed to Tony Black.
So
that doesn't make any sense. And just what can you expect from that? Like what? Totally.
That's a pet peeve of yours already, isn't it?
Yeah, I can't
We were
understand
just
why.
making fun of it like 2 hours ago.
But why would you change from Kibaken? The same sounds like insanely good to Tony Black. Doesn't make sense. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, Vegas Squadron was a team at the past couple of majors that are pretty exciting. There's a lot of those shark memes and gifs going on Twitter. I think a lot of people forgot they exist, me included in that. And but now with all of this going on, that they lost Mir and Kashander left as well, but Mir was the big player for that side. They lost a lot of that flair, I think, and I think it'd be sad if they're not the sexy, exciting CIS random team that they were before, picking up upsets and stuff like that. I think a lot of people can get behind that, and especially at the major when more casual people come in, at least like friends of mine that come in and join and watch the major, don't watch a lot of other tournaments, kind of like to see stuff like that. So I think it'll be kind of sad if they don't do anything at this major, and everything points to them not doing anything.
Convict UKCS says, coming back, I guess, to what we were talking about, Chad, what do you think about Lecro as the IGL, and do you think NIP under his lead will get through the challenger stage? Oh, there's a word too much there. Yeah, like you said, bringing in young people and changing RGL. Chad, what do you think about that? Lecro leading NIP?
I think with all things considered right now in the Swedish scene, someone kind of has to pick up the mantle. If he wants to do it and he's happy to weather that storm, then that's a good sign. I guess you can only say it was positive signs in Stockholm. You can't really say that everybody was like, I don't think there was a single team who were on their A game or even close to their A game in Stockholm, besides North.
Yeah, agreed.
I think everybody else was flat. I think everybody else has a lot more to show. I think with more time, obviously, as we move into this major cycle, teams are going to warm into this. But I don't know what the solution is for Swedish Counter-Strike right now. I think that there's a high probability that Fnatic and NIP I think NIP can make it to the next stage, considering the opponents they have in the new challenger thing. But I can't see either of those squads making it to the top 8 at this major. I think that maybe depending on how the Swiss system unfolds and they get some favorable matchups, there's always that possibility to sneak through. Just that's why we have Windstrike in the top 8.
To be fair though, this is going to be a lot harder with the new system.
Yeah, the new system with the best of 3 at the end means that those teams.
No, I meant the book holds thing.
Yeah, well, that with the best of 3 in the last match, right, are going to make sure that any posers out there who have only done prep on 3 maps will quickly get discovered. And I think that there's such a huge difference between being able to play a best of 1 and a best of 3 and a best of 5. All of those are separate disciplines in themselves, right? If you can come into this is the problem that we had it previously. You could come into a major and only have played 3, have prepped 3 maps. You only need to have prepped 3 maps. That's all you need to be good on. It's 3 out of a 7 map pool, and you can make the top 8 in the world at the most prestigious event that we have. Now with these changes of the seeding and then the best of 3 at the end, hopefully those, like I said, those teams who would normally get through and just with best of 1s, hopefully we weed them out and we get the teams that we should. But back to the NIP question. It looked good in Stockholm. Whether it looks good here or not is another question. It didn't look great at the minor. Obviously, they warmed into it. But yeah, there's too many teams with too many roster changes to say right now if it's a good or bad move.
They just don't look like that flashy. Well, there were some plays at Stockholm that obviously brought them Forest among them, but it just doesn't seem like they have what it takes to go up against the really big teams, even if they do go further than that. They're missing some of their old flair.
One of the things that kind of pisses me off about an IP and the roster changes they did was bringing in Dennis to be the in-game leader, even though he himself said before that he never wants to in-game lead before again, and he just doesn't seem like an in-game leader material to me. And then they brought him in, he was the in-game leader, then they wanted to switch to a totally tactical style with Draken being a support stationary opper. That didn't make any sense to me, and of course it didn't make sense that they kicked Draken and Dennis stopped it in-game leading. And even in Stockholm he had a very bad event. I think he was like bottom fragging by a big margin. So if that continues, then what is his role in the team? Like, why is he there? Why not pick up anyone else
to win pistols? Obviously
that don't get me started on that. Like fair enough, he has some good pistols, but I think that's one of the overplayed things. That's something that people just repeat constantly without a lot of proof. I don't know. I think that is something I really want to delve in and try to figure out and find the stats to back me on one side or another, but I feel like it's just overhyped a lot that Dennis is like a pistol god. And their pistol stats in the first couple of months with Dennis weren't very good.
They were awful, weren't they? They were just something crazy awful though.
Yep. So maybe he's not pistol god after all. I don't know.
I mean, I have to 100% agree.
I'll give you a little peek behind the curtain of why we continue to perpetuate that on the analyst desks. Is because when you have to have a narrative about something and someone has some highlights that they're recognized by, and they want you to run through the same players every single desk segment and introduce this player to the world, you have to look for positives because you need to tell a story. That story is obviously outdated, but then where else do you go with it, right?
I mean, it would sound pretty weird. Yeah. It would sound pretty weird if you went, oh, this guy used to be considered the pistol god. Now he's kind of bad at them.
Yeah,
no, right? It doesn't really do much.
It's not that it's. We're not trying to lie to people. We're just trying to like he has the potential. We've seen on many occasions to win a pistol round single-handedly. However, it doesn't happen so much anymore. But I still do the narrative of Neo, one of the greatest Counter-Strike players to ever touch a mouse. Forest, one of the most legendary, like that. I'll still say those things because they're true in the context of the now. That's where analysis needs to change. We need more assets to present the now, or we need a better way with. I won't get too stuck into that because I don't want to give away free consulting to everybody listening at home. But yeah,
they can contact you at sponge@gmail.com and get your fee.
Yeah, I'm pretty cheap.
So let's take another question from chat. Thanks a lot. Everyone who has anything to ask us about the major coming up, specifically the new challenges stage, but also the major in general, or just comments about what we're talking about. There's one guy who thinks you're calling through a microwave sponge. And yeah, we'll have to apologize for that. Apparently, hotels connected to venues that do esports, big esports events, don't have good internet.
No, it's
Probably
not
be
hotels.
better
Hotels
if
don't
I
have good
was
internet.
calling from a microwave.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's meant to be pretty good. I did a speed test and it said it was 10 down, 12 up, but can't hold that. So
Yeah,
all right.
can't hold it
I
up.
think it's pretty ironic that you said a number up and we didn't hear what that number was.
no.
What about these repetitive visa issues with Turkish players, says Ludwig? We actually
I
covered
mean,
that
we already
already.
talked about
Yeah,
that.
we talked about that. Let's talk about, okay, so
Global
MIBR,
politics.
BODCU, thoughts on MIBR and expectations where they will place. Now, this one's interesting since they actually did win a smaller event at SOTAC a couple of weeks back, and then a lukewarm
Nice
showing at
200K.
Stockholm. What do you guys think about those guys?
I mean, obviously they're going to be playing in a week's time, not now, but still, I feel like, especially Stockholm. I mean, like we said in the previous episode before Zotac, we said that that MIBR have to win, and they did. Like, because if they didn't, they would just be bashed, and now that they do, it's like, yeah, they should have won. And that's it. But like when looking at Stockholm, they've actually looked at least promising, I'm gonna say. I'm sure in the end they were only competitive against Astralis in one of the maps, but still, I feel like that's a step in the right direction, and they've generally just looked a little bit. They've looked more or less the same as in like the playstyle, whatever. I don't think there has been any big change in that, but they've just looked a little bit more rounded, I guess. You could say they just looked a little bit more promising that they did before, and generally the players have performed quite well over the past couple of weeks. So I think that it's promising, as to where they're going to place. I don't know. I'd see them as like a borderline top 8.
I was impressed with two things. I think Yanko as a coach has taken some load off of Fallen in some way because he was back to AWPing to the way that we expect, and Cold Zero was also having a very good tournament.
Yep.
Now they're going to reinvent the wheel of the way they approach the game. I don't think they should. I think that they put themselves in a really good stead with their theory-based side of Counter-Strike, which is very reaction-based, and I like that. And I think that it's cool to have that in the scene and the way that they play the game. I think Yanko is going to bring a level of preparation as a coach that maybe they were lacking before. I know from an in-game leadership perspective as well, it's difficult to be the boss in the server, organizing all this kind of stuff and coming up with the strats, trying to come up with new ideas. So having another voice for Fallen, I think, is huge. The other three players of S2E, Tarek, and Fur just need to do their jobs. I think that the win conditions actually come from Cold Zero making sure that he is that top 3 player in the world and Fallen being a top 3 AWPer in the world. I don't think that we need anything crazy out of Fur, Tarek, or S2E. We just need them to do their jobs. Fur's known for his aggression, the way that he, but when I remember them winning titles, I don't remember Fur's aggression being the reason they won the titles. I remember these really amazing retakes, these comebacks, the rocks of the team stepping up. It wasn't off of Fur pushing and getting some information and getting some good kills. It was off of just the way that they were able to play in the mid rounds off of each other and the way that they were able to stay calm and composed where other teams couldn't. And I think that Cold Zero and Fallen are the key to that. So those are the huge positives that I take away for MIBR coming into this event.
You guys agree with that? Because that's true. That has been actually not the storyline, but that was the kind of air around MIBR SK back then. That it was really Fur pushing in, working with Taco especially.
I think it was still important for Fur to be more successful than not, because like it felt like, at least lately, I don't think not at these last couple of events, but previously it just felt like Fur was getting a lot less success in that aggression than he used to, and that obviously hurts MIBR. And so I feel like it's a little bit. I mean, it just Fur is a little bit more important than I feel like the Sponge said there, just because if he does screw up, then it's a lot. It makes it a lot worse for MIBR. So he just has to be a little bit more successful than not.
Sure. But paint the picture here for a second. Think about teams who have had a player who has been similar in that style. You know, that hyper aggressive, go for the throat, try and disrupt them before anything happens. They come, they have a good period of time, and then you don't see them ever
Yeah.
again. Think about it. You have JW, for example. He was the perfect example. He was the first rat dog. You know, he was the first guy getting in there, getting stuck in, pissing everybody off, making people fucking tilt. Then it's so hard to replicate that. It's one of the hardest things to replicate.
Yeah,
That's
I agree.
why when I say I don't think it's important I think it's more important to have coldzera and Fallen playing to the best. I think the Fer just needs to know that this isn't going to work all the time. It worked for him for a really good time, and he was doing fantastic at that job. And it was something that was very difficult to deal with. You could see how much utility, how much time was wasted just thinking that Fer could be aggressive, especially on maps like Overpass. But he doesn't need to do that anymore. He's got players now who can frag. They can all frag amazingly. This is a team. That's the cool thing about MIBR.
The question
Every
is,
single
can he
player on
though?
this team conferred. Well, that's true.
Can he not?
Because like,
do
you know him, and do you know just how he kind of needs to play that way?
I think that it sucks that that's the case though, right? Because now you have Stewie, now you have Tarek. They're both very instinctual players.
I just feel like it's like in his
kind of-
blood, basically, like having to be aggressive, really.
Well, that's when we had the problem with Phelps and Fer, right? They were overlapping on each other's roles. I think maybe they just this is a learning curve that I felt a player like Magic's had to go through, right? When he broke onto the scene, the best thing that him and Config would just wreck house, and they would just have these aggressive moves. They would just go aggro and just fuck everyone up because they were so confident in their moves. And then as soon as time had passed, we're going, okay, well, how do we deal with this guy? Then that's when you saw him get like removed from the team. He had to go down and play with the Optic roster, and then he got a chance to reinvent himself, be more of I don't want to say a role player, but have more of a defined role within this Astralis roster.
Yeah,
and
he
now
plays a lot
he's
more anchor
consistent.
positions. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's possible with all these players because they're super skilled. They're just not going to get the same level of, I guess, praise if they're not doing that, right? They're going to just be another cog in the wheel.
But Magic also had to go through a very rough period to get to where he is now. I think it would need to be the same thing for Fer. He would need to go to the whatever his equivalent of Optic and whatever, wherever Magic's played, before going back to Astralis and finding like success and finding a different role for himself. Like while Fer is one of the core players of SK and MIBR, it's always him following coldzera. I don't think he will find the need to change his style like dramatically.
So to mirror the Magic story, he'll have to get kicked at this major right after they're being eliminated and sit in the lobby and cry.
Yeah, and for I don't know versus pro people to come up to him and it's okay for.
It's okay. I'll give you a beer. There was a comment here that I want to read out. SmartCat77. If I won a major, I would buy 4 times Vox Eminor Katowice 2014 stickers for my AK. That's not really a question. Well, Chad will be glad to hear it anyway, I think.
Just so that guy knows, I don't get any money from that. So maybe just send me the cash.
Oh, right, Sponge. He has tips for being on desk.
Sponge@gmail.com. PayPal as well.
Oh, luckily SmartCat77 has the proper questions. That's why I mistook them actually. Who do you reckon will win? I guess this is for tomorrow's matchup. Tyloo or Gambit? I reckon Tyloo personally. Didi has been insane recently, and certainly he was in their last game at Stockholm, right?
I know we're doing those betting slips later, and that was one of the matches I said like I'm not touching this.
No, I didn't exactly. That's exactly. Can't touch this. It's just like you'd think Gambit should get blown out just because of what we've seen in Stockholm, where they lost to her races with a stand-in. So. Like, you'd think it should be Tyloo, but then again, Tyloo have had their problems against some of these teams as well. And to be fair, like, touching on Didi, he had that one really amazing game against Astralis, right?
Yeah.
But that's pretty much it. Like, he actually didn't have that great of a tournament.
I don't think
Here's
he's
the
really
situation.
Yeah.
Tyloo can literally play one map. They're good on one map. That's it.
They're good on Mirage and Inferno. Inferno's good as well.
I'll
the
give
two
them-
Everyone
maps.
plays Inferno.
I'll
so-
give them 70%. They can play Inferno 70% of the time. They can play Mirage 100% of the time. Gambit
but-
are not giving them either of those maps.
I will see. They
Play
they,
too
gave, they
strong.
gave they gave Mao's nuke, so we don't know.
Well, look, what do we got here? So Tyloo 100% aren't playing. There's no overpass. Overpass is gone. So I can see a chance if it was like a cache where Tyloo could have a
There he
chance.
goes.
Yeah, it could be.
That's about it. That's all I got. That's all I got. Otherwise, they're not playing nuke. Well, they shouldn't. They're definitely not playing nuke. What am I talking
Also-
about? They're not playing nuke. They're not playing overpass.
They're not
It's either
playing
train
Nuke
or
calling in
cache.
3 different languages. I think we can agree on that, right?
Maybe each level has its own language. So they put Chinese guys on top, and then see, I don't know, Indonesians in the bottom, and I don't know, one guy just doesn't talk to anyone, and he plays Yard.
There's actually a guy before asking about the Bintet. Obviously, he's the one we're talking about because he actually does. At least there was a clip out in May, I think, where we saw them scrim against Vega actually, where he was calling in all 3 languages. There was a question about his individual performance because he was breaking out of the Asian scene like really, really strongly last year. What do you guys make of him?
I think he's a pretty good talent, but he sacrificed everything to make this team work, and he's somehow doing it. So I guess he's channeling all of his energy, all of his skill into calling in 3 languages in the same time and making Tyloo. They broke into top 10 with this that no one can understand. So I think that's good, and I think that if he went out of this team into some team where he just was a player and spoke English, I think he would be a very, very dangerous guy. I think he still has the potential to do that in any time that he is just sick of playing in Tyloo. Maybe not right now because his ratings dropped off a bit, but I know that in the past, like North American teams were interested in bringing him over to the States and have him play there.
I was gonna say, I think like North America would be the worst place for someone like that with the work ethic, like I'm sure that he has. It's just hard to find. He could play in a much better team. I think that's well and truly the truth. What that team would be. I can imagine culturally speaking and that kind of stuff. I'm not saying Indonesia and China align by any means, but I definitely think that the work ethic within that team is there. But obviously the language barrier is the one thing that's stopping them from being what they could possibly be. It's just a difficult risk to take. No one in Europe needs to grab a player from Indonesia. Like they have enough good players in their part of the world. Then it is just the USA. But I don't want it to be another machine gun situation.
Must be a team like Hellraisers or some
Yeah.
from that style. Like
Yeah,
Hellraisers are,
nurturing.
yeah, they're like the bottom between top 10, top 20, and they have that style of they just pick up a crazy talent that isn't proven and they make it work. But that's only Hellraisers that do that. Mouse do it, but with more proven kind of players. Hellraisers are the mini Mouse that do crazier risks. So yeah, let's say, I don't know, Isa leaves to Mouse or something, then they pick up Bentet, whatever, however.
Yaibasha says, and this is for you, chat, settle this please. Is it cache or cache? Isn't it actually more fun if we don't settle it?
Yeah, I agree with
Just
that.
in Australia, we just say cache, but it's just a pronunciation.
And I never understood why people are so hinged on actually correcting you on that. I mean,
It's the same thing like pineapple pizza, just like leave it alone. People have different opinions on stuff. And
Yeah,
it's
I'm not
really
going out
not
of my
important.
way. I'm not going out of my way to say it differently. That's literally just how we say it in Australia. So
you actually did conform or trying to?
no, I could say if like it feels unnatural if I say cash. Like that feels like wrong. It's like when in Australia as well, everyone else in the world says like dink, D-I-N-K, but we say bink, N-K. So like when we're referring, there's different things. Like it's just so small. It's like doesn't matter at all.
Didn't you Striker say that you called it ding with a G at the end?
No,
What?
I'm pretty
So,
sure.
someone told me. No, I know it's with a K, but someone told me they say.
No, wait, that
ding.
was me. That was me.
Yeah.
The fuck?
No, I thought it was a K at the end.
Let's just move on from this topic.
I don't know what you guys are
Whatever.
talking about.
Never mind. Dig. Like dig. G
All
or
right.
K.
So let's move on with the show, guys. People have been calling for this. Just get to the pick'ems. I guess we'll do that. That's fair. Chad, I know you already actually brought yours on for the new challenger stage. Let's see if we can agree on it, all four of us, and actually do it right. Let me just load into the game here, and we'll do our pick'ems, okay?
No, I don't agree with that.
Let's see if we can.
Oh, we can do that.
I'm not spending any money on stickers, so
Yeah.
You will take it out of your pay. That's fine.
that's all right.
Let me just bring it up here.
I honestly think the sponge sticker is one of the last one I bought. I have a sponge and a Sticko sticker on my USB.
Now we're talking.
And then I wonder why I never kill anyone on pistol rounds.
Here we go. Let's see. You guys see it?
Nope. Nope.
All right.
You'll need some time.
Yeah, it's coming.
Hello.
Here we go.
Let's go,
All right,
boys.
play the
I feel it
picture.
coming. I feel it coming.
The
Yeah.
struggles of
so
live television.
For some reason, this team was already here.
Yeah, for sure. 100%
That's weird.
agree.
Maybe I was carried away Sunday night.
Please remove that.
Should I remove this? What do you say, Chad?
I mean, at least replace it with an Australis sticker. I mean, just
get rid of them.
And stop drinking.
Yes.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah,
So,
Australis, I think we can all agree.
Do you guys want to go for the 03 team first, or pick the ones
Let's
that
go
go
for the 03.
It's such
Jesus.
an issue because Spirit and Vega Squadron are playing against each other.
Yeah.
So it's a 50-50 there.
Yeah, it's
and
a lot
whoever
of that
loses the
matchup.
first one, you'd go on like, they're gonna go 3. But yeah, do we want to be the people that go with a VP? I'm not sure.
We should.
So,
I mean, considering how we talked about it, maybe we should.
Let's do VP.
I think so.
Let's
too.
go VP.
I mean, you have the best insight to that, actually, Strikers. You talked to Neo today about the problems with byali leaving, and
Yeah.
what do you
I
think?
just feel like they're not gonna have that much. I mean, sure that they're gonna want to qualify for Katowice basically, but that they're just their hearts are not into it. I don't think that they're that great.
If they don't get it now, going through the minors, they're screwed. That will be
they're screwed.
Hard. They'll have to.
Not just the minor would be fine. The problem is the online qualifiers. I think the main one.
That's gonna be tough.
Chad, you can get on board with this.
I would, if it was VP versus Spirit or Vega Squadron for the 03 spot, I think the VP would still beat them.
Probably.
But I'm happy for the meme. Just whack them in there.
Yeah, I think you
YOLO.
just
go for it.
Just because of how this show went, this episode, I think we need to
do
We
full circle.
need to go out with a bang, right?
That's
all right. So teams moving on, I guess.
I mean, Liquid are easy. Go for it.
I think also these guys.
You get the
Did you guys put Australis in as the #1 team to go to 3-0?
Yes.
See, I'm gonna once again keep them there. That's fine, because if we're using our brains, that makes the most sense. But I know in my heart of hearts that Liquid are winning this major.
Oh,
yeah, we've heard about that.
I mean,
it's happening.
Okay, so let's take it this seriously, right? I'm not sure if it is, but let's take it this seriously. Why?
Is definitely not serious. But go ahead.
What gives you that idea?
I think that before we got into this position after the player break, that Liquid were the only team who were challenging Australis at 100%, right?
Yep.
We were all looking and we're going, Australis were the top dog. They're playing the best Counter-Strike, such and such. Obviously, MIBR was still rebuilding. FaZe had problems with the roster situation. But Liquid, in my mind, were the only team who were able, and sure, there was a couple of blowouts here, there, and everywhere, but they were the only team who kept consistently, in my mind anyway, making it to a point to challenge Australis. They've just taken this entire time to boot camp. They've got to watch what everybody has had at the last event. They get to come out here. They only have to have a 3-map pool for the first 2 stages of this whole tournament, assuming they don't make it to the best of 3s. I know that they're going to have been practicing. I think that skill level in that team is the highest out of any North American roster that's ever been put together. I think it's just how good Alige and Twists and NAF can be as that trio is fucking sick. I just think that
never mind.
They're on, I just think that they're on course here, and it's gonna be, come from nowhere and just fucking take it.
I mean, looking at the sure, all of that logic is perfect. Like I 100% agree. Yes, they've been challenging Astralis. They've actually been looking great. But are they really major winners though? Like look exactly like. Do you actually look at Liquid and say these are tournament winners? Like this is a team that wins tournaments.
They never
because they
lifted a
haven't.
trophy, right?
Because they will win one summit.
The summit, yeah.
They also never actually challenged Astralis in a match. They challenged them as in they played them in matches, but in the matches it always was pretty one-sided. But at the same time, it was same with FaZe Cloud9 early, like last year, and going into the major. Every time FaZe won like very easily, and then the major comes and it's a major final, and then Cloud9 wins somehow. So it can just happen randomly without any rhyme or logic or reason to it.
Yeah.
So from that regard, you can't lose to the same team 10 times in a row. Like one time you're gonna win, especially because you're not that like you're on a similar level, but you just keep losing. It's not like they're playing against a tier 7 team. So if it comes down to that, I see Liquid winning this time, maybe, but I'm not supporting you 100% in this. It just because they kept losing to Astralis, that's the issue. If Astralis loses to someone else and then they play like Navi in the final, seems perfectly fine for them.
Yeah, that's my bad. So
how did Big and Nip suddenly make it onto the board?
I don't know.
We haven't talked about that.
I thought Big was north when he put it in because I have a small picture here. So
yeah.
What happened there? Like yes, what are you trying to do here?
This game seems to pick itself. I don't know. Or else I was just trying.
I think you're just like clicking around and you did something
while you were debating stuff.
Yeah.
I think if you replace Big with North, I think that's the like logical pick. Yeah. And then when we go into the last four that are kind of
yeah, those are a little bit.
These are hard.
I mean, I would still. Well, let's see.
Well, Space Soldiers are out now. We don't have to worry about them.
No, we don't have to worry about them. Basically, any of the first 3 teams, I don't think we should pick. Gambit, Vega, Space. I don't think either of them.
You go with
are.
Like
I want to put Hellraisers.
I have a good feeling about Hellraisers, honestly. Yeah.
And then I would actually put Big because they kind of fit this Swiss system, best of one, stuff like that.
So two.
Then I think it's like between. I think Renegades and Tylo is the rest.
Renegade and Tylo, really?
Yeah. For somehow I think that's. I mean, just looking at look at the other teams there, right? Like maybe not Tylo at this point, but I feel like Renegades are better than almost everybody else. Optic, I don't know.
Optic, yeah, I see them going out too. Actually, to be quite honest.
Going out in like as
so disappointed in Optic.
I mean, based on what we've seen from Optic, I just feel like that's going to be the case as well. But I don't know. I think it's like between the last, how many are there? 2, 4, 6.
I think we have to have
teams.
one crazy pick, like one crazy pick.
One crazy pick,
because someone is gonna like make it through that no one expects. So
just put Rogue in there.
Oh, to go through?
I don't know.
I don't think it's that far off.
I think with Rogue,
I feel like I have
all the bases. We have an Australian, we have a Dane, we have Hiko because Striker loves Hiko, and
that's true.
And there's some Canadians.
That's a homer, right?
It has to be a Canadian in there, right?
In Rogue?
Yay, maybe. No.
He plays here, right?
Never mind. But I think we can pick.
No, there's no Canadian. No.
Hiko, Canadian.
Fuck that team then. No, joking. Yeah, I think that's the wild pick we have.
Just let's go with them.
And then add Tylo as a.
No, I would like over Tylo. I'd rather get.
You think Rogue's going over Tylo?
I pick Tylo over Renegades, honestly.
Okay.
Sorry, Sponge and all the Australians out there.
I know Tylo have never made it to the actual major, and Renegades actually have not either. But I just like looking at the competition. Just look at it, right? Gambit have not done anything to convince me otherwise. Vega have not done anything, have not been anywhere for 4 months or whatever. Space Soldiers, obviously, don't have to talk about that. Complexity, just unproven. Then you have Optic, who should be doing well, and they're not doing well. Then you have Spirit, the same thing as Vega. Kind of don't know what to expect from them. We kind of do. We just expect them to go out pretty quickly. So I feel like out of those, it's just like basically disregarding the rogue pick. The Renegades and Tyloo should be the last two.
Yeah,
honestly.
I mean, on paper, Optic is a lock-in. I mean, the roster is
They
so,
should be, yeah. But I mean,
so
they
good.
had...
But I've been disappointed so many times that
Yeah.
I now have to like get back to them and not pick them now.
So this is what we're
And
doing,
then
guys?
and then be disappointed because I lost points. Thank you.
We need to put them on the spot right now. So this might be it, right?
I think this is it.
This is what we'll do. This is the official HLTV confirmed Pick'Em challenge pick. This is crazy. We'll probably not do much, but here we go.
Honestly, like if it with like replacing Rogue with Hellraisers, and that I feel good about that. But obviously we want to do. Yeah, go for
You mean
it.
Renegades
Click it.
with- What? You mean Renegades with Rogue?
What did I say?
I said Hellraisers with Rogue.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Renegades, I meant.
I think
Those are the official HLTV confirmed picks for the new challenger stage. We'll obviously get back to the ones for the next stages as well as we delve deeper into the tournament. We'll see where this
Gold
takes us.
Pick'Em,
Probably nowhere
pink.
good, right?
I'm sorry?
This probably won't take us anywhere good.
No, probably not. But I mean, if you get the golden Pick'Em, you know who to thank.
So, just to bring it home, we have kind of an unsettled bet, I guess, or at least we have something to catch up on.
Oh yeah, I won last time.
For this segment, the GG.BET segment where we try to put our money where our mouth is. Last time we did this was for SoTag Cup Masters, and let's not dwell on the results from that.
Oh no! I want to talk about that just because I lost the least.
Yeah, what happens here is we try to check out GG.BET for some odds, and once we do previews, we'll try and bet on the upcoming tournament that's after the recurring show, and we'll come back and check on our winnings. I have no winnings. I don't know about you, Prof.
No winnings.
No winnings, but I lost the least.
My bet that Optic will win the second pistol round of the first map didn't pan out, but it was close. It was a 1v1.
Did all the rest of your bets also?
I got that MVP will win a map over versus Pro, and I got the win. I think something on MIBR I got as well.
So actually, we're pretty close then.
I got 2 out of 4.
Oh, okay.
And I missed the first 2, so after that I was like, I don't care about this anymore.
Oh.
But then I got back and never mind.
So the end point there is a striker lost at least, I guess.
Yes.
So let's try and look at the major coming up, obviously tomorrow. We have to preface this by saying, of course, don't bet what you can't lose if you decide to do so. But let's get into it. Prof, you're up first. Obviously here you have the upcoming matches tomorrow, the first opening matches, and then outright results and the whole thing.
Yeah, I'll start with just saying that earlier when I said Gambit versus Tyloo, I'm not touching that. I lied because I touched that. And because Tyloo had 1.79, and as I said earlier, I believe in Tyloo. And for that odds, it seems like a decent pick over Gambit to win the map, just a normal win the map thing. Before that, I had Space Soldiers versus Rogue, and at that moment, I think the odds weren't corrected for Rogue, Space Soldiers playing with their coach instead of Engin. So I got in early, and I think it's a pretty decent 2.19 for Rogue to win that map.
I think they were adjusted afterwards because I'm 199.
Yeah, so I'm not exactly sure how it works. Like, do I get the odds I bet on, or are they changed? I can check that maybe later or something. But yeah, and otherwise, Virtus Pro versus NIP. Virtus Pro, as we commented, don't trust them a lot, and NIP is decent, so 1.35 for a big favorite in my opinion. And then I did some different interesting bets. North versus Hellraisers, and I put Hellraisers to take at least 10 rounds, and I think just based on the fact that these two teams played each other a lot in the past couple of months, and North I think will be on riding that high from the win. They can't come into the first map and be completely focused. I think that will give enough of an edge for Hellraisers to get the 10 rounds. And for Astralis Complexity, I went on the inverse and said Astralis won't give up 10 rounds to Complexity for 1.68 actually. That's it. So I'll win easy. This is a very nice tick. Flip.
It's not bad, yeah.
So,
Actually,
so for mine, I
Oh, yeah.
wanted to bet on actually outright winners. So I actually believe, contrary to popular opinion here, that Navi will win the whole thing. I think at 4.2 it's pretty good. I remember Astralis was at 2, which I thought was pretty ridiculous. That any team could have odds to win the whole thing with the situation right now is pretty crazy. And then after Navi, I think you had Mouse Sports, MIBR, phase upwards of 8, 10, 12, 15. So this, for my money, I think this is the better bet. And then I had the 3 games tomorrow, as well as you, Prof. I had Rogue to win against Space Shoulders, which obviously got a bit better. This is actually from before. It was leaked that engine won't be playing. I have Liquid over uptick at 1.5, and then I put that complexity will not have more than 10 rounds in the first map at 1.68. So that's mine.
Yeah. I actually have quite a similar one to Prof. But I actually, let's see. But I actually bet on Rogue after it was revealed that Space Soldiers would not have engine here. So it actually went down to 199. I'm not sure what it is now, but I imagine it's still quite similar. But then I went, like I said, similar to Prof. I went on NIP against VP just because I feel like VP will not gonna do anything, at least against the kind of the proven teams. Of course, you can say whatever you want about NIP, but compared to VP, they're pretty proven. And then looking at Vega versus Spirit, I just felt like I just went with the higher one just because I can actually make the most money off of it. It's not like I think Vega will win against Spirit. I just feel like it's 50-50, and I have no idea what's going to happen. So this is kind of like my, I don't know, the massive risk in the combo, but Vega, them being ranked 211th versus Spirit's 30-something, just gave them such a high multiplier that I just felt like why not?
Tasty odds.
Yes, and Astralis complexity, like I said, it's the same as you two guys. Actually, I don't think complexity will pass 10 rounds, so or get to 10 rounds.
That's fun. We'll have that one. So the wise man that he is, Sponge will be staying out of this because we're obviously only good for losing our money. So we'll see how this one plays out.
You mean GG.BET's money?
Yeah, that's correct. That's great. So we'll get back to this and see how we do. My take is we won't do very well, but at least we tried. So for the last part of the show tonight, that started a little bit late, let's have a closing question. So if you have questions for us, Sponge, Striker, Prof, and me, Usarian, about anything really, you can ask them in the chat right now, and we'll try and answer a few ones before we end the show. So just to get us talking while people are asking questions, chat, you're going to be on panel tomorrow, I guess, already. Can you can you tell us a little bit about what's going to be going on the panel? And I saw you guys were wearing funny hats. The talent reveal video was pretty funny. The ye olde English clothes and all that.
I haven't actually watched that. I don't know what's going on tomorrow. I just rocked up about 3 hours ago, so you probably know more than me.
Just to talk a little bit about that, I saw they were actually, I was covering ECS in early June, and they were doing some of that video with the talent that was there. And there were times when teams and press were walking backstage, Sadokist was actually standing in front of the green screen for his segment without any pants on, which caught a lot of people off guard.
Okay.
Pants are pretty optional in our job because you don't really see our legs. So a lot of the time when we're behind those desks, we're not normally wearing anything.
Oh, really?
That's some prime insight.
That's so. For you tuning in tomorrow at.
I see VP is walking away. How did that match finish?
They won.
Did they win?
They did end up winning.
Yeah, fair enough.
Oh, so maybe we picked them wrong, huh?
Oh. So that means they stayed in MDL, or am I wrong?
Yeah, won the last map, 16-14. Now this is just a bracket. There's a lot of matches to be played, so.
So, who do you
I
think
was
will...
wondering about that. Okay.
We have some questions coming in here. Says Sniper MLG, who do you think will choke and stun most people? I guess the
What?
biggest surprise.
I think there are
Positive or
two
negative?
questions. I think that's two questions. Choke, who will choke, and who will stun. I guess.
I mean,
Yeah.
okay. Choker. It's I don't want to say it, but I just like when you said that, like North popped into my head the first.
+1. I have
To
to agree with
choke?
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just
I mean-
feel like, I don't know, just something about it just made me think North.
Yeah, it would be pretty
Just because
sad.
they're like one of those, they like the team that now everybody would expect to just fly through the main qualifier, but that might really not be the case. Like they could just, I don't know, lose to some worse teams once, and then they just get like a few bad matchups, and that's it.
As we said for the surprise, the
Yep.
pick of the talent is Rogue. I don't know.
Oh,
I actually have pretty high expectations from Ricky. He's a pretty good player from what I saw, and glad to see him playing against like the top teams again. See how he can fare, because back when he was in CLG, he was playing pretty good. That was 2016, end of 2016. That they had a small good run, and after that he kind of just didn't have anywhere to go because that team fell apart, not because of the team, because of the org mostly, which is kind of sad. So glad to see him back in action. Maybe he can pull off some good stuff.
Chad, as the resident Australian, what do you think about that guy?
Yeah, I think he's a good player. I think the fact he's found a home outside of his Australian Counter-Strike is good, because he has talent far beyond what's going on back there at this time. So I expect him to put up a good showing individually. It's just difficult to see how far that team can go, because we're dealing with some older names up against some top tier opponents on the biggest stage. So
Yep.
they're a question mark for me. I think like these aren't really shocks to anybody, but they were obviously looking a little bit forward in this tournament. I can't see Cloud9 retaining a top 8 spot. I can't see Fnatic retaining a top 8 spot. I'd be very surprised if G2 retained a top 8 spot. They're not really by any means, chokes or anything. They just probably shouldn't be where they are right now in the major. So those are just some observations, I suppose, as opposed to big upsets or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Slim Finger, I love these names, but the best thing about reading names from chat is always people's, or reading questions from chat is always people's names. Slim Finger, I love that one. What are the odds on FaZe winning the major? I don't know if you actually meant the odds we were looking at before, or our thoughts about their chance of winning the whole thing. What's your guys' take on that?
Of course they have a shot. Like all of those top, whatever, 5, now I think 6 teams have a reasonable shot. As to if they will, I don't think so. I just don't feel like they just haven't done too much to impress me with Olfmeister back. Olfmeister played well in Premier and everybody else disappeared. And now, like in Stockholm, like they've been playing relatively well, but Olfmeister wasn't there as much. And it's just like nothing about FaZe has really convinced me that they will win, or that they have a very good shot at winning. I just think that they're maybe like one of those 10% win like chance to win or whatever.
If the question was what are the GG.BET odds, then the answer is 4.7 at the moment.
Oh,
So that's a little bit like around Navi, right?
I think with FaZe to win, they would have to have a tournament where they struggle. They have to struggle in that Swiss. They have to just make it out. They have to make it to get to the grand final, and they have to be. I can't see them winning if they're up against an opponent in the grand final where they're meant to win, which sounds ludicrous.
Yeah, classic. So maybe FaZe are the chokers.
I mean, it's hard. Yeah, well, that's true, but I mean that they're not in the new challenger stage. But still, yeah, sure. I actually was looking at only the new challengers teams, and when we were talking about the chokers. But yeah, there's just something about FaZe, right? We've just seen that too many times not to think this is not a coincidence, right? So they haven't really convinced me, I guess.
Vacant asks, do you think Kerrigan is the problem? I guess it's a little bit hard
Well,
to answer
there's
since they
quite a
have
lot
so
of
many.
There are quite a lot of facts to back that up, right? Back that argument up, just because he's been there with even before that with TSM. Right? He's had that kind of like reputation with TSM, and it feels like he's like some of it has been brought over to FaCe. That's just seems undeniable, honestly, to me.
All right, thanks guys for all the great questions. We're about to round off the show here. Please do remember to check out HLTV for coverage of the major. The two beautiful men to the right and left of me are going to be bringing you coverage, interviews, and all that for HLTV.org. And the happy man on my right is going to be on desk, maybe with pants on. I guess we don't really know right now.
Probably.
I'll wear pants tomorrow, so everyone knows. Pants will be on.
Be sure to check in to the FACEIT Major. First stage, new challenger stage starts tomorrow at 11 CET. And remember, chat, because I know you had problems with this, that's an hour early for you guys.
Thank you for the reminder as well. Still getting used to this time zone thing. And also want to add, leave me a follow on Twitter. I'm poor in terms of Twitter followers. I'm a pleb, so please elevate me to important Twitter status. Thank you very much.
I haven't even cracked 500 yet, so please don't give me that. Chad, you can give us some of yours, right?
Sure, we can definitely share.
Thanks everyone for watching. This has been HLTV Confirmed live from London and also from HLTV HQ behind me here. Thanks for watching. Leave your comments and we'll be back before you know it. Bye-bye.